Alright, we got the balance patch coming up. It's in about a couple hours tonight. And what are they giving us? Omega supply box, whatever. So before I get into the actual balance adjustments, I want to finally explain this target off, because they give it to us right here in the front, and why it's not an iframe. I keep seeing people talk about iframes for skills that are not iframes. Iframe stands for invincibility frame. This is back in games, the fighting games, where you can use a certain skill and you cannot be interrupted while you're doing said skill, and it just happens. So right here they give target off untargetable. That's the word I've been using for it. I'm glad they're using the same word so I don't have to change how I say it. Will be added to some skills of Captain America, not just Captain America, we'll get into that, so that he can lead and be strong in battle. Target off refers to the target indicator being removed. Enemy loses target of you due to the use of certain skills. This means when you use that skill that gets the target off, or I'll keep saying it, untargetable feature, then they cannot shoot at you with a new skill, but any skill that was already going at you can still kill you. This is very similar to my buddy CJ. He did a thing about he was bringing his characters through Maestro, stuff like that, and he did spin blades on Maestro, and Maestro did a stomp and dead. Alright, in addition to fortify, oh yeah, that's his potential stuff. So spearhead, go forward a short distance, and so this is a small dash, and I believe one of them is the double dash, don't quote me on that. And they target off while it's in motion. So while he's doing his running around ability, he cannot be targeted but can still take AoE damage. They're getting rid of status effect resistance and HP recovery, and giving him crit damage and cooldown. This first one is actually really bad. Status effect resistance, it's not the best out of the game, but you definitely don't mind having it. Getting some crit damage is whatever. And this one's fine, lose HP recovery for cooldown. You weren't getting a lot of HP recoveries unless you were doing a Fallstag. I'm sorry if I pronounce his name wrong. Fallstag, however you want to say it. But cooldown is definitely a huge boon, as it is one of the harder things in the game to get. Besides, boots are the easiest way to get cooldown right now. But alright guys, this is the one. Captain Marvel. The cooldown of some target off skills and specializations will be increased. The damage of these skills increased to compensate for the slightly weakened skill effectiveness due to increased cooldown. Let's just say what it is. Maybe there's something out there to do with Captain Marvel, but it's definitely not what we've been doing with Captain Marvel. So all of her light speed skills got damage boosts, but they get the photon flight further and faster, which are the star and the back and forth, 50% cooldown. Not great. And then we go on top of that. This is the big one right here. This is the one where if she uses a light speed movement skill, she gets back dodge. I think hers is the 40% and Spidey's is the 36%. I could be wrong. But no cooldown, 10 seconds. Oh man. So that means every 10 seconds you can get back a dodge. It's still more than everybody else. It's definitely not as oppressive as it was before, but it's also kind of, when the cooldown on the abilities are 50% and faster was an actual iframe, it's kind of weird that they reduced the cooldown of an actual iframe They differentiate and talk about iframes later on, you'll see, but they said they're increasing the cooldowns of target off skills. I think this right here should be reverted, because this is not a target off, untargetable skill. I'm definitely also not a fan of this. It's an interesting change. I'm not going to say I like it. I like that they thought of something creative and out of the box. This is definitely something I did not see people talking about. And I like that they are thinking like that. But this is definitely way too much. This should be this if they're even going to do that. Then they have to at least play a bit, but it's not dead. If photon absorption, instead of 10 seconds, was 6 seconds, I think would be a lot better. But dodge prediction right here is, I think it's the reduced cooldowns. If you, no, you get dodge back when you do, okay. Reduced cooldowns of, what is it, light speed movement skills every 6 seconds, but now it's 10 seconds. They're just doing it across the board. And now the king has returned. Iron Man skill damage will increase. Cooldown of some skills will increase as the damage goes up. This is the smallest. So Party Time Protocol, the bots, the summons are going to do more damage. And Repulsor Charge, which they were already using as a nice instant damage skill, is going up in damage. Spin Blades, on the damage increase, whatever. But the cooldown, not enough to really change a lot. You can't do the quote-unquote infinite spin blades, but it's definitely... so, what is it? It's 19 seconds currently. Then you add this, so you're looking at 23 to 25 seconds, somewhere in that range, 24 just as an average. Then with 50% cooldown, you're looking at 12 seconds on spin blades. And then you have your cooldown skill that gives 38%. So you're looking at 8, 6, so like 7.5 seconds on spin blades. Which your biggest trouble was Captain Marvel and Spider-Man, which we'll get into next, and puts him in a better spot. Spider-Man, he got nerfed, but he definitely didn't get killed. At least of what they currently were. So Captain Marvel got effectively killed in the way that we were using her currently. Spider-Man also kind of got killed in the way he was currently being used. The difference being, people didn't really see another option for Captain Marvel, whereas people did, and still do, see other ways of playing Spider-Man, which we'll get into in later videos. So they're saying they increased his damage by getting rid of status effect resistance and giving him crit damage. That's fine. So as you see, Spider Grenade Super Glue goes up in damage. Gyroscope goes up in damage, which is really nice. This is a skill that people have stopped using for a while, and going with cross counter. It's nice to see this as an option at this point. All the next 4 are all the versions of the swing. It does more damage and 25% cooldown increase. So this is exactly what they were saying was going to happen, was the target off skill of swing is getting a cooldown increase. All these skills do the shock effect. They said this was going to happen. You'll see this across the board. Shock is being changed from reduce attack by 25% for 7 seconds to decrease attack by 30% for 8 seconds. Minor change, but you'll see some interesting things once we get down to Storm and Star-Lord. They did the same exact thing to Spider-Man as they did to Captain Marvel. This is if you use Spider Combat, you get a dodge back. Was 0, now 10 second cooldown. I still say the same thing, that this should be 6 if they're going to go this route. I don't think this is the right way to do it, but they seem pretty locked in of what they're doing. You gotta. So we found the problem. The problem is it's a 10-second cooldown. What is the solution? The solution is they're not going to revert it back to 0 cooldown, but they will experiment with 8, 7, maybe even 6 seconds instead of 10. Lose status effect resistance, get crit damage. It's fine. You weren't really going into status effect resistance. Freely manipulate the weather. Okay, so we already talked about the shock change right here. What I want to really look at, this is something people aren't really talking about. I like this chill change. So let's talk about it. It used to decrease their movement speed and dodge rate by 30% for 7 seconds. Now it's 36% for 8 seconds. Now, I haven't done the tests yet, but I see a world, and I'll have to talk with some other storms that I know, but I see a world where the running away bubble strategy just gets better. And what I mean by that is your opponent's movement speed being reduced means you can use your dash more effectively, your run skill, because hitting the run, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is a percentage bonus to your actual movement speed. So if you reduce their base movement, then there you go. If this does become a thing, I also see a world where they use companions in a certain way to give themselves base movement speed. I believe Cersei 5-star gives base movement speed, and maybe not Yondu. Nick Fury's a collection bonus. There's 2. I don't remember offhand. But also reducing dodge rate is really nice. What's interesting is a couple of these skills hit multiple times, so you're more likely to hit this chill effect. I kind of like this, and it'll be nice to see what happens with this in the future. Now, before I jump into this, let's go over the potential. Losing status effect accuracy, losing like 20% accuracy for defense, pierce, and crit damage. I mean, these are stats that you want, but I think these, if this chill becomes a thing, this was a stat you would have wanted, and 20% for kind of free, I don't know, it's kind of a sideways change, not good or bad, really. You just have to itemize differently. But let's talk about this one. Protection of the Wind. Was supposedly, this was bugged. They talk about it later on. 75% chance to recover 60% stamina when using air current skill. This was working at 75% chance to recover 60% on any skill. Now it's 50% recover 50% on any skill. It's effectively how it was already being applied in game, and now it's just updated. So the thing that, you lose the 10% stamina bonus. But besides that, it's kind of just, they made it more clear. Now Star-Lord is going to be the interesting one. So Star-Lord, Problem Solver, which was one of your best skills, is getting Target Off while skill is in use. I really think this should have already been there when he does the figure 8 thing, because it really feels like how he's moving should be a dodgy type skill, right? And I feel this really, I like this. I like what it really goes towards. Gravity Bomb getting skill range. I don't think this makes it usable, but it makes it an option. So it's worth testing at some point. I'll talk with some people, but I don't think this changes anything. So Elemental Cannon Flame Cannonball is the one that we've already been using. It has like a 25-26 second cooldown, reducing its cooldown by 50%. I know Seawild, shout out to my boy Seawild, he's gonna really like that. Now, I had to look at this one. I really had to look at this one. Currently in game, what noise pollution does, as it says right here, decrease attack by for 8 seconds. I believe it was 30 something percent, 34.8, something like that. And now they reduced the range. It was already kind of a short range, and they reduced it, and they made it a more PvP specialized skill. That doesn't really do anything. It's just what it's doing now is more PvP affected. It looks like they're scrapping the reduce attack and adding a skill very similar to magic skill. Cannot dodge for 3 seconds and decrease movement speed for 3 seconds upon hit. Now, when you look at the animation of the skill versus magic skill, which on paper is really good, but in practice is really bad, the animation, as long as they leave the animation of this the same, this is going to be a world-class PvP skill right here. Because making it's a really click, like he really just alley-oops it, and with the range he has to already be in to cast a spell, it's almost guaranteed to hit. Really, it seems like, if I'm correct in the ranges. But they can't dodge for 3 seconds. You can fire off the flame cannon, and then when they go to attack you back, problem solver. That seems like where they want to go with this. But now we have one more thing we need to talk about, and that's burn. If nothing else, Star-Lord might be able to start fighting Storm for PvE numbers. He's already been doing a really good job, but he's probably there, if not slightly better. We'll see, because burn used to be damage received by 20% for 7 seconds. Now it's 24% for 8 seconds. That's a 4% increase on everything you do. So, I mean, 4% is not a lot, but on a crit with 300% crit damage and that dodge spec, it's looking pretty good. And he gets all the same things. He also gets the chill thing. I don't see him making use of a running away chill spec, but it is something to note. Losing 20% accuracy as well to get crit rate defense pierce. These both are in cores, so they're easier to get than the accuracy, but I don't think you really need the accuracy. Now, for a big one for me, guys, Widow, at least how I play her, is dead. And so, Sticky Bomb, first thing I saw, I said, that's really cool, and I'm curious if that's 10% in total, or if it's 10% per tick, because that could be a lot of damage. Then, Quick Step Strike, 50% increased cooldown, which, ooh. And then, I think this is way overreacting here on the specialization. Improvising, this is when you use a espionage type skill, you reduce your cooldowns by 2.5 seconds. It's getting a 10-second cooldown. That's a no-go for me, fam. Because the amount of espionage type skills you had to use to get the same combat effectiveness as that dodge gauge was 2 or 3. So really, if I'm saying those others should be 6, this should at least be a 2 or 3 second cooldown at most in the future. Now, Doctor Strange, what I said, you gotta be careful what you wish for. I have seen Wolverthor and a few other content creators ask for Doctor Strange to kind of lean into that kind of tanky stats. And I'm not bashing the guy or nothing. I'm just pointing out, you can't make a deal with a genie, right? You have to be careful what you ask for. Because you can't say, I want steak. Because then they can give you a 3-week-old steak, right? You have to be like, I want a freshly made steak to get the steak you're looking for. But if we take a look, 7 Rings of Ragdor goes from lowest to low or low to medium. This is not what we were using. This is not what it was being used for anyways. This feels like they weren't listening at all. I mean, obviously a buff is a buff, but eh. Vishanti's Sacred Sword. This was a long animation. They made it a lot quicker. This is a high damage skill, but it's not being really used right now. And this one is what I meant right here. Bladed Defense. It does good damage immediately in a burst around you, but now it does that same damage and then decreases damage received by 15% for 10 seconds effectively. So if you lean into cooldown, you can mostly always have this up, it looks like. Depends on how the specialization and cooldown work, like how they match up. Because that gives you minus cooldown. Can you still, like, if it gives you minus 10 cooldown and you get 50%, does that mean you cap at 40% instead of 50%? Or can you put more cooldown and cap at 50%? That's something I've been wondering for a while, and I still need to look into. Gateway Summoning, 50% cooldown and 50% damage. The damage is awesome. The cooldown obviously is a nerf, but I think this is overall probably good. Just with the type of strategy it does. This, I don't know where this came from. I do not know where this came from. Not even going to talk about this. I don't know what they were thinking there. Minus status effect accuracy, minus cooldown for crit rate, crit damage. You want crit rate and crit damage on some stranges. I play a very support strange where I would rather both of these stats. So it's kind of a real nerf right there. The potential is terrible. So they're putting the line of text of Untargetable on Captain Marvel's Spearhead and Problem Solver for Star-Lord. They're putting that line in there. And right here, the Invincible effect description. So just like this says Untargetable, will say Invincible for Black Widow's Vanish skill. That's an iframe. They should put this on the faster skill of Captain Marvel as well. This they told us about before. The quantity of Convergium obtained from dismantling costume more cores will be increased. You should not be doing this anyways. You should be putting them in the convergence box. Unless this is saying the Convergium in the convergence box, but I believe this means when you just crunch them from your inventory for gold and Convergium, you get more. So this, I read this before and I wasn't entirely sure. Agent's attack contribution to defeat, to the defeat of the most wanted prime target will be reset upon exiting Dark Zone. So this is probably a, Korean to English change. And I'm very careful with how I try to read things. And I can see some different ways this means. It says improvements, but the wording kind of sounds like it's operating how it's always been operating. But assuming it is supposed to be an improvement, I'm going to guess that reset. Either this means it resets the prime, as in it tries to walk back to its spawn point, which doesn't make sense. That means a group of 2 or 3 people can run in, tag a boss, change zones, and you can't hit the boss because it's resetting. It could mean that, but that seems really bad and easily exploitable. I really hope that's not it. It also could be... the only other way I can read it is exactly how it is going, right? Where if I have 90% of the damage, you have 10% of the damage, I leave, it gets reset so that you are now 10%, which is now technically 100%, right? Tell me in the comment section if you think there's a different way to read this, because I don't. They fixed a couple of changes here. do, do, do. So I like this right here. That the cutoff for end of Dark Zone is 1 minute before next day instead of 1 second before next day, because that was causing some issues. Yeah, I ran into this as well with overnight farming, where sometimes you kill the spider hatchlings too quick, and the game doesn't register that you killed them, and then your character is just still hitting it while nothing happening. Last no. Most wanted normal target defeat reward will be changed, wherein only the defeat reward the last normal target that was attacked can be. Oh, okay. This is so you can't run around the map tagging stuff. So this means if there's 3 on the map, I run to one, hit it, and then someone else is fighting it, I can't run to the second one and hit that and get both. I have to wait for the first one to die before I can hit the second one. It is unclear if, because they call the Dark Zone Most Wanted as well, it is unclear if it is in both or if this is the overworld one, because they don't specifically state Dark Zone here. That is a sneaky one that you should look out for. But, so now the real question, right guys? The real question. As you all know, I play Black Widow, and I play the cooldown reduction spammy build. So the question is, what am I going to do, right? So I'm going to wait till the patch hits and see if any weird backend changes happen where Defense Pierce isn't doing what it has been doing for a while, or if backlash happens and some of these get reverted. I think I'm going to just sit on Widow until at least next week and just collect resources. I'm not going to spend resources on anything. Specialization, potential, everything. Just collect, and then think about it to see if anything happens next week. Because the week after, next week should be a new, Battle Pass, Omega Pass, and a new Invasion, which I believe the new Battle Pass also, from what we saw last time, possibly means new companions, which can also change up decisions you make. I recommend waiting until the next Omega Pass before you make any real changes right now. Unless you're a Captain Marvel player, right? Oh man, that sucks. But real quick, Captain Marvel, as she's being played right now, is probably dead. There might be a way to play her out, play her in a different way in the future, but right now, kind of dead with how people play her. Spider-Man got a nerf, but I think he can still be played, especially with the Spider-Man companion. Stacking off the same webs is still powerful. Black Widow, how I played her, is dead as well. You can still do things with it. Gotta be super, super careful. So I can see some big brain people still trying to play Widow. But really, it's looking like Spider-Man, Star-Lord, and Iron Man doing the Lord's work right now. And going forward, those are going to be the 3 I'm going to be looking at when the next Omega Pass comes through. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. Till next time, guys.